The door to our dorm room swung open without a single knock, and there stood my best friend Ethan, his backpack slung over one shoulder and a grin that quickly faded into pure shock. His eyes widened as he took in the scene. Me, Rowan, pressed close to Camden, my roommate, our faces inches apart after a kiss that had been building for weeks. Rowan? What the hell is going on? Ethan's voice cracked, freezing us all in place. That single moment shattered everything I had worked so hard to hide for years. I stepped back from Camden, my heart hammering against my ribs as the reality of being caught hit me like a wave. Camden, ever the steady one, kept his hand lightly on my arm for a second longer before letting go, his expression calm, but his eyes full of concern. The small dorm room at our Los Angeles University suddenly felt suffocating, the posters on the walls and textbooks scattered on the desk blurring into the background. I had known Ethan since we were kids back in Texas. He was the brother I never had, the one who stood by me through high school football games and family barbecues. I had dated girls to fit in, laughed at the jokes, and buried the truth so deep that sometimes I almost believed the lie myself. College was supposed to be different, a fresh start away from the conservative expectations of my family. Then I met Camden during orientation, the tall guy with kind eyes and a quiet confidence who loved the same books and music as me. Our late-night talks turned into something more, something I couldn't deny anymore. Ethan, this isn't how I wanted you to find out. I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan dropped his bag, his face a mix of confusion and hurt. Find out what? That you're with him. He gestured at Camden, who stayed silent, giving me the space to speak. I nodded slowly, the words I had practiced in my head for years finally fighting to come out. Yeah, I'm gay. I've been figuring it out for a long time, but I was scared. Scared of what you'd think, what my parents would say. The conversation that followed was raw and awkward. Ethan sat on the edge of my bed, listening as I poured out the years of internal struggle, the nights I questioned everything about myself, the fear of disappointing everyone. Camden shared a bit about his own experience coming out in high school, how it wasn't easy, but it was necessary for his peace. Ethan didn't yell or storm out, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. I just wish you trusted me, man. We've been through everything together. His words stung with truth. By the end of the night, he agreed to stay as planned for the weekend, but the tension lingered in the air like smoke. As I lay in bed later, Camden in his bunk across the room and Ethan on the floor mattress, my mind raced. What would this mean for our friendship? For my family back home, who still called every week asking about girls and my future? The fear was real, but so was the small sense of relief that the secret was out to at least one person who mattered. Camden caught my eye in the dim light and gave a small smile. It was a start, but I knew the real journey was just beginning. The next morning, things were quiet at first. We grabbed coffee from the campus cafe, the California sun bright overhead as we walked the paths lined with palm trees. Ethan asked more questions, not angry, but genuinely trying to understand. So, when did you know? I told him about the crush I had on a teammate in high school, how I pushed it down and dated a girl instead. Camden walked beside us, chiming in with stories of his own to make it less about me alone. It helped, but I could feel Ethan watching us, processing the new dynamic. By afternoon, we were talking more normally, but the undercurrent was there. I wondered how long it would take for things to feel normal again, if they ever would. That evening, as Ethan and I had a moment alone while Camden was at a study group, he opened up more. I'm not going to lie, it's a shock. But you're my best friend, Rowan. I don't want to lose that. His acceptance, tentative as it was, gave me hope. Yet the bigger battles loomed, telling my parents, facing the world beyond this dorm. For now, the three of us navigated the new reality, sharing pizza and stories late into the night. The crisis had forced me to face myself, and, in the quiet moments, I felt the first stirrings of freedom. The days that followed brought a fragile new balance. Ethan still joined us for meals and study sessions, but his laughs came a little slower, his jokes a little more careful. I caught him glancing at Camden and me when he thought I wasn't looking, as if trying to rewrite years of memories to fit this new version of me. One afternoon in the library, surrounded by the quiet rustle of pages and the faint smell of old books, Ethan finally asked the question that had been hanging between us. Does this change who we are as friends? I set down my notebook and met his eyes. I hope not. I'm still the same guy who stayed up all night with you before finals last year. The one who drove you home when your car broke down. He nodded slowly, but the doubt lingered in his expression. Camden waited outside, giving us space, and when we rejoined him, the three of us walked back to the dorm in comfortable silence for the first time since the incident. That night, alone with Camden after Ethan headed to the gym, I let out the breath I'd been holding. He's trying, but it's hard for him. Camden pulled me into a gentle hug, his voice soft against my ear. It'll take time, for all of us. His warmth grounded me, reminding me why this risk felt worth it. The internal storm quieted just enough for me to sleep, but I knew the real tests were still ahead. The following days on campus blurred into a mix of cautious normalcy and underlying tension that I couldn't shake. Ethan tried hard to act like nothing had changed, joining us for morning runs along the sunny paths near the university quad, but his conversation topics skirted around anything personal. We'd laugh about professors or complain about assignments, yet every time Camden's hand brushed mine accidentally in the cafeteria line, I saw Ethan glance away, his jaw tightening just a fraction. The Los Angeles sun beat down relentlessly, turning the palm trees into silhouettes against the blue sky, but inside I felt a chill that no California warmth could touch. I started questioning every interaction, wondering if my best friend saw me differently now, as if the label gay had rewritten our entire history. One evening after classes, Camden and I found a quiet bench overlooking the campus lake, the water rippling gently under the fading light. "You don't have to carry this alone anymore," he said, his voice steady as always. Telling Ethan was a huge step. Maybe it's time to think about your family. The suggestion hit like a stone in my stomach. My parents back in Texas called every Sunday, their voices full of pride about my straight-A life and not-so-subtle hints about finding a nice girl. How could I shatter that? I changed the subject quickly, but the seed was planted. That night, my phone rang. It was Mom. "Rowan, honey, you sound tired. Everything okay at school?" I forced a laugh and mumbled about final stress, but the guilt clawed at me afterward. Camden listened without judgment when I told him, his presence a silent promise that I wasn't alone. The weekend brought a small party at a friend's off-campus apartment, the kind of gathering where music thumped low and conversations flowed easily over cheap beer. Ethan invited us, insisting it would be good to get out. I went, hoping for normalcy, but halfway through the night, a mutual friend joked about how close Camden and I seemed. Ethan's face flushed, and he pulled me aside later on the balcony under the city lights. "People are starting to notice, Rowan." I didn't say anything, but what if it gets back to your folks? His concern was genuine, but it stung like an accusation. I assured him it was fine, but inside the fear grew. Camden sensed my unease on the walk home and stopped under a street lamp. "If telling your family feels too soon, that's okay. But don't push me away because you're scared." His words lingered, forcing me to confront the growing distance I had started to create. Over the next week, the strain showed in small ways. Ethan skipped our usual study sessions twice, claiming he had extra work, and I felt the old friendship cracking under the weight of my secret. Camden and I spent more time together, sharing quiet moments on the roof of our dorm building where the city lights stretched out like stars. He talked about his own family's acceptance, how it had freed him to be himself. "You deserve that too," he said one night, his hand finding mine. The touch was simple, but it ignited a hope I hadn't felt before. Yet the internal conflict raged on. Was I ready to risk everything? The misunderstanding with Ethan deepened when he accidentally mentioned my new roommate situation to another friend, and words started to spread in hushed tones around our circle. I confronted him in our room, voice low to avoid Camden hearing. "You promised you'd keep it between us." Ethan looked hurt. I slipped, "Okay. I'm sorry. This is new for me too." His apology hung in the air, but the damage was done. The campus felt smaller, the whispers louder in my mind. Through it all, Camden remained patient, encouraging me to breathe and take one day at a time. The emotional toll mounted, but slowly, I began to see glimmers of strength in owning my truth, even if the path ahead looked impossible. Thanksgiving break loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon, and the decision to fly home to Texas weighed heavier than any final exam. Camden drove me to the airport, the Los Angeles traffic humming around us as he squeezed my hand at the curb. "Call me if you need to talk." No matter what. His support was steady, but the fear of losing him if things went wrong back home gnawed at me. The flight gave me hours to replay every scenario, my mind spinning with what-ifs about my parents' reactions. When I landed in the familiar Texas heat, Mom hugged me tight at baggage claim, Dad clapping my shoulder with his usual gruff affection. "Good to have you home, son. Any girls we should know about?" The question landed like a punch, and I forced a smile, changing the subject to school. The family dinner table felt like a battlefield. Over turkey and mashed potatoes, the conversation turned to my future, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Mom, Dad, there's something I need to tell you. I'm gay." The words hung in the silence, forks pausing midair. Mom's eyes welled up immediately. "Rowan, honey, are you sure? This is just a phase, right?" Dad's face hardened, the conservative values he'd instilled since I was a kid rising like a wall. "We've raised you better than this. What about the family name? Your future?" The confrontation escalated into raised voices and tears, accusations of betrayal mixing with my desperate explanations of the years I'd spent hiding. Ethan had texted earlier, warning me he might have let something slip to a mutual cousin, and now the rumor had reached them. The misunderstanding cut deep. I spent the night in my childhood room, staring at posters from high school, feeling smaller than ever. Camden's text kept me grounded, but the distance made everything feel insurmountable. When I returned to campus, the strain showed. Camden met me at the gate, pulling me into a quiet embrace at the arrivals area. "You did it. That's huge." But I pushed him away gently, the sacrifice weighing on me. "Maybe I need space. My family is barely speaking to me now." The argument that followed was painful, full of raw emotion as I explained how my choices were hurting everyone. Camden's hurt eyes mirrored my own inner crisis, but he respected my need for time. Back at the dorm, Ethan tried to help, sharing how he defended me to the family group chat, but the betrayal from the leaks still stung. College life continued, lectures and group projects providing distraction, but the societal pressure hit harder at a campus event where a speaker discussed identity, and side glances from peers made me question everything. The low point came one rainy afternoon when I sat alone in the library, wondering if suppressing who I was would be easier for everyone. The emotional battle raged, forcing me to confront the cost of authenticity versus the comfort of hiding. Yet, deep down, a small voice whispered that growth came from facing the storm, not running from it. The rumor mill on campus spun faster than I could control. Whispers followed me from the lecture halls to the gym. Friends who once joked with me, now offering awkward smiles or avoiding eye contact altogether. Ethan tried to shut it down, confronting a guy in our study group who had overheard and spread it further, but the damage was done. "I messed up by slipping to that cousin, but I'm fixing it," he told me one night in the dorm, his voice heavy with regret. The betrayal, even accidental, left a scar on our friendship that I wasn't sure would heal. Camden bore the brunt of my frustration during a late-night walk along the beach near campus, the waves crashing as I lashed out. "This is why I hid it all. Now everyone's looking at me like I'm different." He stood firm, eyes steady under the moonlight. "You're not defined by what they think, Rowan, but pushing me away won't protect anyone." The low point hit during a group project presentation when a classmate made a thinly veiled joke about roommate dynamics, and I froze, the room spinning. After class, I sat on a bench overlooking the quad, the sunny California day mocking my inner darkness. I texted Camden that maybe we should take a break, the sacrifice feeling like the only way to shield him from the fallout. He showed up anyway, sitting beside me without a word at first. "I love you enough to wait," he said simply, and the honesty cracked my defenses. Ethan found us later, admitting he'd been struggling with his own biases, but choosing friendship over fear. "You're my brother no matter what." Let's face this together. His support came at the perfect time, but the societal prejudice lingered in every sidelong glance and hushed conversation. The emotional weight pushed me to the edge. Nights spent staring at the ceiling, replaying family calls where mom cried and dad stayed silent. The misunderstanding with Camden deepened when he misinterpreted my distance as rejection, leading to a heated argument in the dorm where voices rose but never crossed in anger, only pain. "I can't lose you too," I confessed finally, the vulnerability raw. Camden pulled me close, the hug a lifeline. Through the crisis, I began to see the pattern. Every step forward came with a cost, but denying myself only amplified the hurt. Ethan organized a small gathering of close friends to show support, a quiet affirmation that not everyone judged. The climax of the tension left me exhausted but clearer, the internal conflict shifting toward acceptance as I realized hiding had been the real betrayal to myself. Separation from Camden lasted only a week, but it felt like months as I reflected alone during long walks around the university grounds. The sacrifice I had considered, ending things to spare him the drama, faded as I journaled late into the nights, unpacking years of suppressed feelings. "I can't keep living for everyone else," I wrote one evening, the words liberating. Ethan checked in daily, sharing stories from his own growth and how talking to his family back home had opened his eyes. I was wrong to make it about me, he admitted over coffee, his sincerity rebuilding our bond brick by brick. Camden respected the space but left the door open, his texts simple encouragements that reminded me of the happiness we'd shared. The awakening came during a campus counseling session I finally attended, the therapist's questions peeling back layers of shame. Living authentically isn't selfish, Rowan. It's necessary for real connections. The words resonated, sparking a decision to fly home again over winter break and face my parents fully. Camden drove me to the airport once more, this time with a longer hug. "Whatever happens, I'm here." The family visits started rocky, Dad's silence heavy during dinners, but Mom's tears turned to questions over long talks in the kitchen. "We love you, son. It will take time, but we're trying." Partial acceptance felt like victory after the months of silence. Back on campus, I reconciled with Camden under the same park bench where we'd first connected, the conversation honest and healing. "I choose us," I said, and the relief washed over me. Ethan joined us for a celebratory hike in the nearby hills, the three of us laughing freely for the first time in ages. The growth was tangible. I no longer flinched at my reflection, the identity crisis giving way to quiet confidence. Societal pressures still existed in subtle ways, but I faced them with new resilience, understanding that true strength came from the choices I'd made and the support I'd chosen to accept. The months following winter break brought a steady transformation I could feel in every part of my life. Family calls from Texas grew warmer, Mom asking genuine questions about Camden, and Dad grumbling less with each conversation. "We're proud of the man you're becoming," Mom said one Sunday, her voice steady for the first time. Ethan and I fell back into our old rhythm, our friendship stronger for the test it had endured. He'd even defended me publicly on campus when old rumors resurfaced, turning potential conflict into proof of loyalty. "You've got this, brother," he said after one such moment, clapping my shoulder the way he always had. Camden and I built something deeper than stolen kisses in the dorm. We planned small adventures around Los Angeles, sunset walks on the beach, quiet study dates in coffee shops where our hands found each other under the table. One golden afternoon in the park near campus, the same spot for my early doubts, we sat on the grass talking about the future. "I never thought hiding would cost so much," I admitted, "but facing it gave me everything." He smiled, pulling me into an embrace that felt like coming home, the sun warming us both as laughter mixed with quiet promises. The romantic happiness wasn't flashy, but it was real, the kind built on shared growth and mutual understanding. The journey had reshaped me from the scared guy in that dorm room to someone who stood taller, decisions made with clarity rather than fear. Conflicts with family lingered in small ways, but the sacrifices had been worth the awakening. Ethan graduated plans aligned with mine, and we joked about road trips post-college. Camden's steady presence reminded me daily that love in all its forms deserves space to breathe. As I look back on the path from that shocking moment to this peaceful one, the emotional evolution felt complete. Friendships had been tested and strengthened, family bonds strained but mending, and my own identity no longer a secret but a source of pride. True or false? Hiding your true identity is sometimes the best way to preserve your closest relationships, or does living authentically strengthen them in the end?